If your Amazon store isn't making money right now, it's not Amazon, it's you. And I'm going to show you 5 simple mistakes that keep you stuck. So every Thursday, we're supposed to talk about new shit. But today, that's not what we're talking about. Today, we are going to talk about the top 5 mistakes and things that people are doing that are keeping them from making money and basically how to fix it. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're like really tired of guessing. We want to make sure that we have a little bit more structure with what we're doing. We want to avoid urgencies and knee-jerk reactions, and we want to actually put ourselves in a position to grow our stores. Yeah. Adil, good to have you in here. Angie made it as well. I'm going to tell you one of the things that's the most important is when I come down here and I take a look at outbound. I take a look at outbound, and it is a clear indication of what it takes in order to get your store moving in the right direction. Russ today posting, he got out 14 boxes. That's better than me. I only got out 4. That's really good. And 2 of them were part of an optimized shipment that should have went out on Monday. So my little lazy ass. Over here we got It's a Girl Love. That looks like a lot of shipments right there. A lot of shipments. We got Daisy with a lot of shipments. We got Daisy with yet another picture. Angie always coming with the extra. She always doing 10 optimized box. I can't even keep up with her. I can't even keep up at that point. Lisa got some out the door. Before anything happens on your store, before you start seeing any kind of successes on your store, it literally starts with your shipments. It really does. It really starts with your shipment. I am in that phase now where I am transitioning most of my stuff now once and for all to FBA. And it is one of the hardest things to do because I'm starting to see that I was building a store that had a little bit of FBM, and I was kind of like having some fun with it, but not really having fun with it because I was still having to pack things every day. And turning it off means there's a reduction in sales, right? And then turning it back on means that the sales come back. So it's like a heavy push-pull dynamic, unless you just say, fuck it, I'm not going to do that anymore. So let's talk about these mistakes that people would make. Let's see if I were to give you 5 mistakes that people would talk about. The first one is not sourcing consistently and not sending. Yeah. Because you can source and you can do things merchant fulfilled. So the consistency wouldn't necessarily matter when it came to doing selling, because anybody that started an Amazon store could get sales starting tomorrow. They really could at the right price, given they might want to be working for $2. They could. They could. Thank you for the Augusta leads. Got me good nuggets in my store already. I know. The leads groups inside the premium community, if you have not opened up your leads groups in a while, and look, there's actually good stuff in there. And I'll be real with you, Mike. A lot of the sellers, when they were building, that's somewhere they went. It's something they used in the beginning. They don't use it very often. Sometimes they peek in there. They're like, oh shit, there really is some good stuff in there. You probably added 20 products and made money. You probably not only added 20 products and made money, Mike, you probably added them and then found out like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks in, you were the only seller left on them. And it happens over and over again. Sometimes it seems that we actually are in there changing it up and adding things in over and over again so that people can see there's still opportunity in it. Cassie, good to have you in here. Chilly One, thanks for joining. Rachel is in the house. Good to have you here. Let's see. Evelyn made it as well. We've got Lisa, Norma, Ms. DK, Jackie is here, Lisa as well. Great having all of you guys here. So I always make that recommendation. That's always to the premium group as one of those methods where if you're having trouble with sourcing and you don't know where to start, just pop over to the leads list. I'm not taking your money for nothing. The VAs are literally sourcing those. So at least make it look like the money that I'm paying them is worth it so that I don't have to feel like I have to remove the leads list, right? Because it's a good resource. It's a good resource, right? He says, delete dead beats, adding good ones. I hate carrying the dead weights. And nobody likes carrying the dead weights. But let's go on to the next big mistake. So if we're not sourcing consistently, that would be one of our biggest mistakes. And the only way we can do that is to get our sourcing consistency up. And instead of spinning our wheels, open up Google and type in timer and set it for 20 minutes and then start sourcing. And when it's done, stop. I don't say to everybody, I think I'm really good at it because I just all of a sudden magically woke up and I knew what a good deal was. I was willing to put in the time day after day after day after day until it became just automatic. And so this is one of those things where you're going to have to make it part of your muscle. And if it isn't a lot, if it is just 20 minutes a day, that will be 20 minutes more than you did yesterday. And you need to remember that in a 24-hour period, time unspent, time not used correctly, you can't get back. It's like unspent coins. You just don't get them back, right? Like yesterday's time, it's gone or it's gone. But 20 minutes spent today is spent and it earns something. Though it's not in the physical universe, you can't see it right now, it earns something in the future. And it's why it's so important to do it. It's like working out, knowing there's going to be a result at the end, but not being able to see it until you get there, right? Okay, good. So let's go on to the next one, which is not spending money. Not spending money. This one, whether we believe it or not, it's been good to have you in here. Keith, thanks for joining. This one, whether you believe it or not, will hit you just square in the head so many times where all of a sudden you think you're trekking along and you really have to make some decisions about what it is you're going to do with your store and how much more you're going to grow it, which means you're going to have to invest more money. No one makes $100,000 month without spending money. You have to spend the money. So we can talk till we're blue in the face of what it would take, but until your spending is up at $40,000 or $50,000, you're not going to hit $100,000 month. So you can dream and you can think, I can't wait till I'm a seven-figure seller. Or you could just like rip the band-aid off and just spend the money. It'll happen. The shit will sell. It will all sell. There's not one thing that hasn't surprised you over and over again. And I think most of you in here have learned how to really get rid of products faster. And that, if you can learn how to exit and get rid of products fast when they're not selling, that's just more money back to go back and find something else. So it's in the spending part. The next part, and this 100% applies to all new people, and this also applies to those that have been selling for a while and don't understand that you don't have some kind of seniority over other people. And that's overthinking your approvals. The approval process is, Claudio, good to have you in here. That means Anna's about to be here too. The approval process is what it is. One day it works, the next day it doesn't. One day you get approved for everything, and 4 weeks later, you're still working on the other thing or something else. And they should have all got approved. And it's when we sit around and we make these excuses on why it should have worked. And then now we've emptied out our emotional container into the ungating process. One for one, every student that's either on the mentorship or working through some type of training has learned that it is 100% how many times you send in shipments, how consistent you can be, and how much you are selling. It is a combination of all of them that makes it easier, but nobody can explain why one day it works and it doesn't work the other. So why you would insist, why so many people insist on getting caught up in the whole thing where I just don't understand why it's not working. It doesn't work for anybody. I don't know why you expect it to. I don't know why anybody expects it to work better for one person or someone else's advice is going to be better. It doesn't work for anyone. I'm sitting on almost 200 of those stupid fucking transformers in the other room. Some of the most beautiful inventory of all time that came from a supplier that I can't sell, that I bought in August on a proper invoice, that they want my supplier's supplier. I'm like, are you fucking joking? I just buy some more from someone else. I'll buy more from somewhere else until I get approved. And then I'll send those ones in because I got a proper invoice on that too. So my supply chain is good. Because that same invoice worked to ungate some other brands, but for some fucking reason it won't work on that. I'm not going to sit around and like try to figure it out. That inventory is not going bad. Those listings are still good. Remember the life cycle of any toy? 36 to 48 months. I got time. Baby, I ain't going nowhere. I ain't going nowhere. So we don't want to get ourselves caught up in that overthinking on approvals. Now, here's the next thing. The next one of the top 5 mistakes would be this: buying random items instead of things that can be repeated. Now, that's not to say that if I run to the store and I find some fancy, like vitamins or something, and these are really great, and I don't know anything about vitamins, that does not mean that I'm not going to take a chance on these vitamins. But that in itself is its own business model. If I'm chasing after items, I can't restock. It means that once they sell out, I have to chase something else. And you have to be really aware that you're building your business that way. A good, repeatable business takes products you can continue to buy over and over again. But when we start to adopt that other model where we buy things we cannot rebuild, we have to chase again. It's like, okay, I got this great product. Now it's sold through. I have this money, plus I have the profit, and I don't have sales because I don't have something I can put it back into. There's no way for me to restock this, no way for me to replenish it. So now I need to go a little deeper into my sourcing, but it's probably one of the biggest mistakes. And I think what happens is the arbitrage model, both online and retail arbitrage, can have so much of a financial gain for you that you just chase the money. You get used to chasing the money and it feels good because you're making money. You're making that money. And there's some products out there where it's just insanely good. I mean, I'm still not approved for this. I'm approved for some Squishmallows, but I'm not approved for this one. But it's $3.99. I'm not going to pass on it. I'm just going to buy it. I'll get approved eventually. So there's just stockpiles of Minecraft stuff and what is this? Squishmallow stuff, stockpiles of it everywhere, right? Because who passes on a $4 product? Even at best, if I got this from a supplier, I'd probably get it for about $3.50. I'd really like you to look at the concept here. If I get it for $3.50 and this supplier ends up getting it for 3.25, this is just as comparable in terms of price, right? Great example. But another thing, I would not be able to restock because those singular items like that, I did not buy them from supplier and I bought them from a Ross. So I'm going to get stuck with that part where it's random, but it doesn't mean that that brand can't be restocked or that brand, something in it can't be repeatable. Now that takes us into the last thing that people do that makes it's like a big mistake, and that's not restocking their inventory, period. Now, this is different than buying random items and adopting a policy of only selling these random things that we find because we want to make that extra money versus running out of stock on actually repeatable products that you do not take the time to look at. And it can be so simple and it can bite you in the ass so easy because what happens is you go in stock and it sells. And somewhat you might actually be surprised that it sells, that you go ahead and instead of on a listing selling 500, 600 times a month, instead of sending 150, 200 units, you go send another 10-unit test buy. Or you let it just run out of stock completely because you're like, well, I forgot about it. And you look again and you're like, damn, it really does have like a 500. Let me test it again. Does this sound familiar? Let me just test it one more time to see if it's for reals. And then it sells again. And you're like, hold on. Let me just try one more time. And it's like, come on, guys. Like there's a point where you have to spend a little bit more time like restocking the inventory. You take a look at it, you say, damn, that shit really is selling. Let's see if I can't get my hands on more of that product right now, and then get it restocked. Tom, it's good to have you in here. Edster, great to have you. Yvette made it as well. Yvette, good to see you. So now you have this inventory. You say to yourself, okay, I got in stock. I ran out of stock. Now what I'm going to do? And if you're caught up in the fourth mistake of just buying random products, you miss it. You missed the fact that you ran out of stock, right? It is good to see you, that. Yeah, you run out of stock. And so those things alone create their own urgency and they make it so you feel like you're stuck and you can't do anything different because you're like, I can't get past this. You won't spend the money, you don't source consistently, you overthink the approval process, you buy random items, and then you forget to restock. You have no system, none. Most of you guys could learn a little bit from using Sellerboard. And if you took the time to actually use Sellerboard, you'd find that the restock report on there is quite delicious. It's actually quite easy, really quite easy to use. And when you're using it, you can just put everything in order of the items that need to be restocked by priority, and then check and see, are those items actually still selling and are still profitable? and then make a decision to go ahead and buy more. But if you have a list that says restock 900 of this, 700 of this, because it works its way down when you put in an order, right? 900, 800, 600, 650. Like it works its all the way down. Now you go do the math on all that, you find out that in order to restock in full on any of that stuff, you'd probably need about $27,000. And then you get an idea that you had no intention of spending 27,000 today. So the restock program or your restock system has to, in some way or another, fit the budget that you put in place, which takes us back to the first mistake of not spending money. So we go in, we buy the products, we send them in, we get the data, we know that it can sell again. We check the restock data, and now it hits us in that next it hits us, it zings us right in the middle of the eyes right here. Now it's time to spend the money, and we have to actually spend it. We have to spend the money. Now, why am I bringing this up today? Whether this is a premium group call or it is the free call, it is going to hit squarely all of you guys when it comes time for back to school. You're going to buy products for back to school. Some of you guys are going to be sending them early, like you are now. Some are going to send them the last week of May and the first part of June. Part of your product is going to sell out in Prime Day, the last week of June. The rest of it is going to sell through in July. You're going to ask yourself if you bought enough. You didn't. You're going to say to yourself that you're too late. You aren't. You're going to say to yourself, I'm way too late. You are. You're going to have all kinds of things happen. You're going to sit there with no sales, and then one day open up your phone and there's going to be 6,000, 8,000, or 10,000 in sales in one day. And then you're going to say to yourself, I didn't spend enough. And then you're going to beat yourself up for it. And if it's within your budget, there's nothing to be upset about. If you're in your budget and you laid out the plan, there's nothing to be upset about. If you restocked your inventory, there's nothing to be upset about. If you didn't have a random buying period where you're like, I'm gonna buy this when everybody else is buying the other thing, then you're not gonna be out there with some like large upsets, right? As long as you're moving. Mike says back to school require big pockets to make money. You go big, you go home. I tell everybody at the start of the back to school season, I'm like, just whatever you thought you were going to spend 3 times that. You'll be happy. And I think there were some people last year, I think you guys were breathing hard because there were some tickets that got open. And I was like, are you sure you want to sell all of these? Are you sure? And I will admit, some people would open up tickets. I was like, are you sure you want to sell this? Because I've got some sellers who would buy all of this. If you prep it and send it on the ASIN you wanted to send it on, they'll take it all. Are you sure? And that's what's going to happen. You're going to say to yourself, okay, I really am going to go in on back to school. I really am going to spend a little bit more money. And then you can't breathe. You're not going to be able to breathe for a minute. It's just going to feel that way. And then it's going to sell out. And for those guys that have had back to school seasons and they were successful and you were super happy, congratulations to you. For those of you guys that made early mistakes in back to school and you feel like you're not quite sure what you're going to do this year, like you're going to have to test the process whether you like it or not. But one thing I would tell most people here is don't go heavy on one listing. Spread it out and figure out which ones are going to sell for you. You'll have time. If you do that early enough in June, you're going to get an idea of what's going to sell for you in July, and you can go ahead and inbound more, right? Mark says, I was so nervous last year back to school, but not this year. He's going all in. That's awesome. Mike says, but in order to stock up, you need to be ungated on the mover. So get busy pushing the button. He's absolutely right about that. So many times I have explained this to people. The ungating process is what it is. If you have any intention of selling on any of those major brands during that time, you need to get ungated. You need to get ungated now in April. Last year on May, let me see if I got a copy of this. I don't think I have a copy of it right here. I have to open it up so I could show everybody. But one of my students that was on a mentorship, let's call him the chicken shredder guy. He was on the mentorship and he was just finishing up. And he got the notification, he was having the hardest time getting approved for like Crayola. He got that notification that if he didn't have his stuff in, that they were switching up, there was going to be restrictions on May 29th. Does anybody remember that email? Does anybody remember that? That was last year. I'm not saying I remember everything, but I will tell you, I try to remember almost everything. And a lot of people, if you joined last year, remember, Crayola was 10. And if you bought the product, got it to Amazon, and it started selling, you didn't have a problem. But if you bought the product, didn't get it to Amazon, you now had to ungate it with 200. It was like instant. One day it happened. And then that applied to every other back to school brand. And then they started sending out the notification that they were going to restrict Crayola on May 29th. And so everybody was acting in such a fast, like moving fast. At that point, everybody was willing to stay up in the middle of the night and spam the ungating department until they got an answer. They were willing to do everything they could up to that point, right? Those were the things that change. And so you don't need urgency on the part of Amazon to change what you want to do. You just need to look at what is your budget? What are you planning to invest in? And then start working around that and spending that money on a weekly basis so you can start to hit your targets, right? It's same shipments, same spend. It has to be there. Now, sometimes you're going to go over budget. We do. Everybody goes over budget. We all kind of go over budget, right? And you have a good system in place, things can change with that. You can actually get those products sold. And with the way that repricers are working now, you're in with the repricer here, you're at your 30% or more. Then all of a sudden it hits that metric where it's like 20% for the next 30 days. And then boom, all of a sudden you're cashing, you're liquidating at break even. And that's not a bad policy. That's actually a great policy because honestly, if you had something that you had for 60 days and it didn't sell out and it didn't sell anything, it has no business at Amazon. If it didn't sell at the prices you expected it to, it needs to be gone. You need to be gone. And when you leave that in the hands of a repricer, you stop being emotional about it. You stop being tied to it. You stop saying, well, it used to sell. It used to do this good. It was this. You stop doing that and you start getting on to the next great product for you that can actually bring you the money you're looking for. And in some cases, I've seen people get thousands of dollars that was tied up that they were sure was great product and it ended up not being great product. And just by the mere fact that it had been sitting there for so long warranted the repricer bringing the price down and getting rid of it. And this, like I said, products stay good for periods of time. And if you're in the right time, they're great. I'll give you a great example for a lot of you guys who are here. It's Stanley tumblers. They rode the bell curve. No one believed that the curve existed inside of the space of Amazon. No one understood how that works. That works on every product. The bell curve exists. Now, there's other products out there. They are going to hit Jellycat. When do you think that's going to come to an end? When do you think that the curve? Shouldn't somebody analyze where the curve is? I mean, let's really think about it. How long do they think Jellycat's going to keep doing this? How long do you think people are going to spend $84 on a fucking bunny? Before something else becomes popular, there's always the top of the curve. You just have to figure out where that is. So analyzing products and understanding this and being in the market for as long as you are, you start to get a good feel for things, right? Mike says Amazon moves fast. Whatever was great even 3 months ago sinks like shit and needs to be rolled out. It's got zero emotion. That's right. It really does. You wouldn't sit on that stuff, but we get tied to it emotionally and we start making these unrealistic decisions about products that sit. And every day I have product that sells where it's break even and I'm like, oh, well, you know what? Actually, I'm kind of glad that's gone. I forgot all about that. Like I will forget about something. I'm like, oh my God, I was so overpriced on that. And I had so many of those and I'm so glad they're gone. And you forget this while you're in the middle of it, right? You invested in something, you expected it to make a certain amount. And, I think I was on a listing and the listing was, it was shown on a TikTok. I didn't send in very many. I was one of the first people on the listing at the time, probably February 16th. And I sent in 20 because I figured if it had any kind of heat, I could go out and I could get hundreds of them. And it had no heat. And as the price started moving, I think I sold 12. And then no, I sold 8. And so the last ones that were left, there was like 12 of them. I was like, man, they're not selling at all. So the repricer takes it down, or I actually reset the repricer for a very low amount. And I gave the repricer only 2 cents to work with. $8.99 to $9. That was it. It could only move between those two prices. That was it. I was getting rid of it. Now, why do I bring this up? Because at the point it should have sold, it didn't sell. And at that lowest price, it didn't sell either. I ended up liquidating those out. I'll get paid out by Amazon. But because of the buy cost and the profit I made on the first 8 units, The 12 should put me at a 10% loss. And these are mistakes that you make along the way. You just learn your lesson as you go and you look at it and you say, well, I guess that wasn't that great of an investment. But there's more to it when it comes to sourcing. There's way more to it. There's way more to understanding where the customer will pay for a product before it actually hits the stores and the buy box goes away, right? So we have to look at things overall, and you won't know this stuff unless you sit down and you source. And this is why I said, open the Google, get the timer ready, set it for 20 minutes and source. Whether you find something or not, just source. You'll get better and better at it. You'll look at stuff and you go, damn, that's crazy. Then you can bookmark things. I'm sourcing. I will bookmark something. I'm like, you know what? We're coming back to this in 4 weeks. I want to know if I was right about this. I've done it many times. There's been times I was wrong. SD was in here earlier and he was talking shit on Tuesday. I was wrong on the one piece. I was wrong. I only had the data to look at. I only had that data to look at, right? So at that point, any kind of decision I would have made on that would have been a guess. Could I have guessed right? Possibly, but I wouldn't have invested a lot of money knowing bigger sellers had already lost money every year. But you wouldn't know where to look unless you spent the time looking over and over and over again. So the idea that you can actually learn it all overnight, that's a lie. Just like you can make $1 million overnight with no investment, that's a lie. That's a lie. That you can make $3,000 to $10,000 on Amazon in profit in the first 30 days. That's a lie. That is a lie, right? Not without money. Could you invest 20 or 30,000 and make 3,000 to 10,000 in profit in the first 30 days? You could do that. You could do that if you knew what to buy. You could do that, but you'd have to spend 20 to $30,000. You'd have to spend it. So without the spend, that's a lie. You can't do that, right? So I'm not trying to like expose all of these things. I'm just trying to get you to see that it is going to require some kind of work on your part. You're going to have to sit down and you're going to have to do these things. You're going to have to learn these things, learn how to source, learn how to spend, know when to buy, not overthink the process. If I want to sell the transformers, I just buy another 200 from somewhere else. It's not a big deal. You just buy 200. There's nowhere in my mind where I say to myself, I'm never going to get ungated. I'm going to get ungated. Am I going to get ungated this week? I don't know. Shit. I'm going to try it again with the old one. That invoice is old as hell. Shit, we rounded out like 9 months now. That thing is about to be a year old. If it takes it at a year old, I'll be so happy. But until then, it's just easier just to buy 200 more units. It's easier. There's not one person in here that wouldn't be satisfied with 200 units that you could just click a button and buy, unless you're afraid to spend, unless you've made sourcing mistakes in the past and you don't know what to buy, unless you've overthink the process of approvals and you're stuck so down bad, you're fighting for your life on approvals that you think nothing works. Unless you've been on that random buying spree and you just don't think things will hold long enough, so you think 200 would be a risk. And unless that last part, you don't understand the restock system within your own metrics and you can't figure out what would you do next. Well, here's a great example. If I go buy, talk about the restock. If I buy these and they do really well, I say, damn, you know what? Let me check a look at this supplier and find out how many more. I open it up and they got 4,600. And I'm like, shit, bitch, you bought 100, right? Well, if I buy 200 from someone else and I look at theirs and they've got on their list, they've got another 3,000. Couldn't I build a proper system for restocking that product if it started to sell? I'd need data. I need data, right? I need to get it to Amazon as quickly as possible so I could take that data and I could make my next decision. And you could, if you just got the product to Amazon, you could. There's not one person in here that has to be told Nerf is great, Transformers great, Paw Patrol is great, Barbie is great, Mattel is great, Hasbro is great. You don't need to be told that. You already know those brands are great. So now we're looking at the system. You're like, bro, how do I decide what they got? Like maybe you look at a list and you say, well, they only got like 400. Well, why don't you just buy all fucking 400? And some of you guys will sit there and go, well, that's $6 at 400, and that's $2,400. And yeah, now we're back to the I'm not spending enough on my Amazon store because that's the commitment that it takes in order for you to have sufficient amount of inventory to sell through over a 90-day, 120-day, 180-day mark, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. You need that. You need that. We all need that. What? Marissa's here? What? Big Debbie in the house. Good to have you here. Tanya, thanks for joining. Russ, I see you made it as well. Norma, hello. You need that. You need that. That's how you want to get unstuck. Spend some money. Spend it until you feel uncomfortable. It's the best feeling. Spend it until it's like, oh God, I think I messed up on this one. I think I messed up on this one. Spend that. That is a great feeling. That is a good one. And then when you look at your inventory, you know the potential's there. You can spend $2,400 in 12 hours RA or in 20 minutes of OA, but you're going to spend it. You're going to spend it no matter what. Big Debbie, love your likes on the TikTok. Yeah. Oh, you know what I saw, Mike? I saw your stuff on Dirty Souls. I saw that stuff too. That is so good. I did. The one where you took out the bubble with the heat gun from the inside, bro, that thing was awesome. I think it was like it looked like a flamethrower though. It was like a flamethrower. I was like, I don't think I have one of those. I got a heat gun though. I can make it work. Torch, that's what it was. It's called a torch. Yeah. Okay, so does anybody have any questions today? Because I know there's all kinds of stuff that changes each week. And before we end, I want to make sure if you want to come up, you have a question, you have something that's going on, you're like, hey, can you look at this thing for me? Can you look up a product for me? I've got this ASIN I'm considering. I mean, there's only 39 of us here. It's not like I've seen pretty much what everybody sells anyways. It's not like anybody's going to steal anything from anybody. So if you do, I watch your videos and I think I can do that. In fact, I cannot do that. I told my daughter, I was like, here's what's going down. She's like, what? I said, my son's coming. I said, your brother's coming to install this bidet. And if he doesn't come tonight, you're doing it tomorrow. She's like, Ma, I don't know how to do that. I said, you're in luck. I know how to do it. So what you're going to do is I'm going to teach you how to do it so that you don't have to count on a man, right? She's like, Mom, we're not doing that. I said, no, we're doing it. We're doing it. Oh, this is great. I love it. Any questions out there? I feel like there's something you guys want to talk about. I feel like it. I feel like there's something that everybody wants to talk about. There's got to be something. Something. Come on, guys. Okay, good. I know you guys, I know I'm gonna give it just in case there's a delay in text messaging, in case your guys' fingers are working slow today. In case they're working slow, I don't want to miss it. I don't want to miss it. And by the way, you guys should get a fitness program. I don't know how many times I got to talk about the fitness program, but I'm on it again. I'm on the fitness. I'm on all of you guys. I don't want to watch anything. I don't want to watch anything happen to my dad to happen to any of you guys. So just pick your ass up and go to the gym. Like just go like 2 times, 3 times a week. You'll be so much happier. Let's see. Oh, three people text in, three people answer. I'm fitness. This dessert. I'm a fitness. This dessert in my mouth. Marissa. Marissa, I cannot be serious when you do this. I'm a fitness sister. You know what? I can't. I can't with Marissa. I just can't. I was talking to my best friend and she's like, how'd you get up that high in weight? I said, a lot of cheesecake at nighttime. And she's like, what? I said, sometimes the girls gotta do what you gotta do. She's like, cheesecake before bed? I'm like, bro, there's a cheesecake factory right up the street. Oh, fitness is dessert. You just too much right now. Too much, too much. Wednesday back to school is its own boot camp. That's why in premium we're going to be doing the live sourcing call on back to school on April the 25th. April 25th. So that you guys know what to look for. And those of you guys that are confused, you can just jump on those listings. I learned something about sitting on a product too long. They sent lots of my shit back. Worst. That's the worst. We can talk about that. I thought they had limitless space. I learned the hard way they do. They need product to move and sell and not sit there. I need a cheesecake too. I need a cheesecake too, Lisa. And you are right about that, Mike. I think that is the concept with a lot of people that are older. And Marissa put it best. She said after 6 months, the shit is return to sender. It's a return to sender. And what we forget is that even though we have, and maybe you guys aren't, some of you guys aren't older, maybe we have some granny money, maybe we have some grandparent money where we can let it sit for a little while. But in one way or another, we've got we just because we can let it sit doesn't mean it's supposed to. I hope that makes sense. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? You're just like, that shit can rot in hell. And then it comes back and you're like, guess what, baby? And I know you guys have done this, right? You get that shit back, you're like, guess what, bitch? You repack it, you're sending it back out, you're like, let it sit there for another 6 months. And the whole time you know it's a loser, and you still send it out. If you're serious about building this and not just watching videos, click the link below and let's get you moving.